Somebody's got a pretty Porsche out there. Did y'all see that? Is that yours? The black one?
It's not a Porsche, but it's mine.
It's good looking. What is it?
It's a Spider, Toyota Spider.
Oh, well, it looks like a Porsche to me.
Thank you.
That's all I know. Black car. The convertible. Pretty.
Thank you.
All ready?
And I'm pushing the live button, so give me just a second for it to load.
So, welcome to today's Noon Knowledge. We have with us today Sarah Mast and Katie Westbrooks with the High Road Agency, and they are going to be talking to us about social media for special events. Without further ado, let's welcome Katie and Sarah.
Hello, I'm Sarah and this is Katie.
Hi.
We work for the High Road Agency. Our home office is based in Johnson City, Tennessee. We also have an office in Kingsport. My title is creative designer and Katie's is?
I'm a design strategist.
So we do everything from graphic design to helping formulate social media strategies to helping with special events to really whatever the agency tells us to do. So we have this little food for thought question just to get us started, to kind of show the importance of highlighting your special event on social media. How many of you have ever attended an event because it appeared on your Facebook timeline?
So pretty much everyone. So we're going to start with, what is your strategy? When you start marketing for whatever your event is, you need to start with a strategy, not just run straight into it.
So with these strategies, these are the main 4 social media platforms we use. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat has kind of started having a big role in this special event sphere. So 4 things you really want to look at whenever you're creating this strategy for your special event is to consider your demographic. A lot of different events will have very different demographics, and the social media platforms you are posting to also have very different demographics. So making sure you put the most attention on those details.
And you really need to focus the type of content that you're putting on each platform, because the target audience on each platform is very different. Who's looking at Twitter versus who's looking at Facebook or Snapchat is extremely different.
You also want to consider the analytics. There's a lot of different software out there where you can get the analytics as to who's looking at your post, who's engaging with your post, what posts are receiving engagement and what are just kind of being ignored, so that you can look at that and create future content based off of these analytics.
And that's the best way to do it, is when you start at the beginning and you have your different stuff going out, looking back at the analytics to be able to know, okay, this didn't work, what do I need to change? Or if you had 2 things go out, this worked better than the other, and continue on that route instead.
So another thing that has been an increasing thing with the social media is you need to pay to play, meaning boosted posts, ads, paying for them in the back end of your social media platform. We place ads on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram every single day. And that's really how to get your event in front of more people.
You can always put things out on social media and it can gain traction, but it may not always. So being able to boost those different things and get more people seeing it will really play a very heavy part in your strategy.
One way to kind of get money to help with these advertising is to bring sponsorships into your strategy. A lot of businesses will pay to sponsor your event, and as long as you tag them in these posts, they will continue to give you more money to use this for advertising.
And it seems a little weird to think about asking someone to sponsor your Facebook, but it really gives your event a lot more traction, and it'll give them a whole lot more insight as well and get people to their site. So it really pays off for them too. And that's a real easy way to sell it to them.
So one event that we attend every year and help build a strategy for, and also help them during the event responding to all of their messages, is FunFest. Their strategy is a lot different than a lot of other special events because their audience is so broad. They have the concert goers for their 3 main concert nights. They have lots of family events, and then they have their community-minded who have went to all 100 odd FunFests, and then also the millennials who have a much different interest in the festival.
So since your demographic really changes, your content changes as well. Certain events aren't going to appeal to one demographic, but it will completely appeal to another. And so, again, if you're placing ads, being able to place ads that reach each of those different demographics is going to help you a whole lot more get more interest in the separate events. And it's really important to think about your strategy starts before the event, goes on during the event, and continues after the event. It's not just right when it happens.
So one main thing you need to consider is which social platforms you are really going to focus your strategy on. A lot of events are able to post the same thing across all 4 platforms to get traction. Whenever you're looking at other events, Twitter is mainly a millennial-based or younger demographic. So you really want to push towards more their mindset, where Facebook encompasses a much larger demographic from kids in middle school all the way to grandmothers and grandfathers. So you really have to think about those demographics to decide what kind of content you want to post. And then there's Instagram, who is sort of like a millennial to a little older, with a little younger too. But
and to keep in mind, millennials go, the youngest millennial is about 21 and reaches to about 35? 35 years old. So that's a millennial demographic too. So it's not just the younger kids that we're thinking about when we mention millennials.
And then there's Snapchat too, which is a much younger demographic, and scheduling content on there is a little bit different and is evolving every day.
Yes. And you don't have to be everywhere. Knowing your audience really helps you decide which platform you need to be on, or platforms. And so not necessarily every event is going to need something on Snapchat or something on Twitter. So being able to keep that in mind, you don't have to be everywhere.
Okay, so here's a few things to consider whenever you're looking at Facebook as your social media strategy. Again, you want to look at your demographic and kind of see how you want to target these different demographics with your content, with your pay-to-play boosting. So for event page setup, there are many ways you can do this in Facebook. So one of our major events that we help with is actually this weekend, and I'll show you a couple examples of how their event page is set up. But they have, is Bristol Rhythm and Roots Reunion. So they have their main Facebook page, and then in their events they have all of their separate events listed. So if you see here, this is just 2 of the events that are listed underneath their Bristol Rhythm and Roots page. And so they are able to target different demographics based on these events. So the Bluegrass Jam Camp is going to be, I mean, that is a very broad range, but it's more geared towards older and that love bluegrass music, love their ukulele, guitar. So you can target each of these audiences to get for them to see this. And then each time which is where this boost event comes into play. But also, you will notice on your own Facebook pages where your friends have clicked that they're interested in an event, and it shows up on your timeline. So you see all of these this is another view of all of their events within their events. And it's really important for these to be on Facebook so that you will get more traction from all of your friends liking it and sharing it.
And when people say, and whenever it comes up on your timeline and you're like, oh, I really like this, and you click that you're interested in it, it'll show up on more people's timeline that you're interested in it or that you said you're going. And the more people that interact with it, the more people see it. And so that is a really good way of continuing to get your message out there without having to pay for boosting it.
Okay. So we've already kind of hit on this a little bit, but your content is really key on Facebook. And you really need to make sure that you're hitting these different audiences because it is a deep sea where there's a lot of fish and you want each of these fish to see the content that you have put out there for them. And then we've also talked about advertising, and there's two main ways to advertise on Facebook. You can do the boosted posts, which will show up in your timeline, and then you have actual ads, which is through the back side of Facebook, where you can pinpoint, but there's lots of different rules and regulations for these ads too. You can only have so much text, the image has to be a certain way, a certain size. So you have to kind of look at what's the best way for you to get the best bang for your buck.
And with those, you can pinpoint age range, you can pinpoint interests, careers, and those different things. So you can really pinpoint the kind of person that you're looking for and who would be interested in it.
And one thing that has become more and more popular are contests on Facebook. You can gain a lot of traction for your event by setting up contests for people to win passes, gift sets. It kind of depends on your event because some events you have to pay to go to and others are free. So for Bristol Rhythm and Roots, giving away 2 weekend passes is huge, and it's worth like $200. So giving away 2 weekend passes gets a lot of traction for the event, and you will see a lot of engagement with the posts.
And contests on Facebook can be run two different ways. There's a contest platform that has an extreme amount of rules that you need to go through, and it shows up in a completely different way. Or if you're doing a post and run a contest, you'll need to have some disclaimers at the bottom that it's not run by Facebook and endorsed by Facebook. And that's where you could do your like or shares. And that way it gets shared out a little bit more. It's not that one is necessarily better than the other, it just draws different attention to it.
But you will have to make sure that you have those appropriate disclaimers or you can find yourself in some legal problems, which is why with larger events we lean towards the contest Facebook setup.
Sorry.
Is there specific language in the disclaimers?
Yes.
Okay, where would you find that?
It really just depends on your specific event. There are, sometimes we have to go directly to Facebook and make sure that it is appropriate.
Right. In the settings and help, you can search through there and put in your kind of event and different things like that, and it will be clear and show you what kind of disclaimers are necessary. An example of us being able to put out the right content on Facebook and it gaining a lot of traction, to bring up Bristol Rhythm and Roots Reunion again, being able to put out appropriate and shareable content was really nice. We put out a top 10 bands to see this weekend a few years ago, and the Huffington Post actually picked that up, elaborated on it, and then posted it on all of their social media and website. And so then that gained national traction just from sharing great content. And so being able to share something, being able to put something out there that you know people will be interested in, it's not just fun facts, it's something that you're like, you can emotionally invest in, really helps move things along as well.
Questions and polls have kind of started to gain a lot of traction too. Whenever you ask someone a question, what is your favorite artist? What is your favorite thing about the festival? There's a much higher chance that they are going to engage with that post and answer it, and when they answer it, it will show up in their friends' timelines, and then you will just create more and more engagement. So Twitter, a whole different ballgame. As we mentioned, the demographic is much different than Facebook. You're looking at a much younger demographic who is kind of wants the message to be clear and to the point, and Twitter only lets you be clear and to the point because you only have so many characters to play with. Again, content is key, and what Katie mentioned, we want it to be retweetable. Something that someone is going to want others to hear, so they're going to hit that retweet button so more and more people see your content.
So you want it to be relatable, or how something's done, or behind the scenes of the festival, or something fun or funny. I don't know if anybody has followed the Wendy's Twitter feed, but they reply to things in such a funny way that then it ends up getting retweeted so many times, or Moon Pie. And so being able to, keep a nice personality with your brand helps as well.
The wonderful hashtags. So you want to make sure that your event has a very unique hashtag to your event so that when people search these hashtags, they find your content. But you also want to include other hashtags such as very broad ones, hashtag festival, hashtag music festival, so that other people, when they're looking for these types of events, it will show up in their search as well.
And when you're coming up with your unique hashtag, you also want it to be something that isn't too difficult, because people can easily mistype it or not even come to mind whenever they're putting their own hashtags in on their posts. So that's something to keep in mind as well.
So responsiveness on Twitter. Most Twitter users are expecting a very quick response to their tweet.
They want that instant gratification.
So I guess 2 years ago, we were at Battle at Bristol. Where's my mouse? Okay. So we were at Battle at Bristol, and here's just a few stats for whenever we were engaging with the followers on Twitter. So we were helping them respond 3 weeks before up to the big game. Race weekend, there were 38,000 responses within 3 days on Twitter. And then the weekend of the game, which was the Kenny Chesney concert and the game, and I think there were a couple other concerts, were 60,000 tweets, responses from our team to followers of Battle at Bristol. So this is just a look at demographic. I mean, a lot of college football fans are on their Twitter following, what would you call them, reporters and statistic
Analyzers.
yeah,
That's it.
and sports analyzers to get their take on the game. So Twitter was obviously a very large part of their social strategy.
And it's very important because it really creates that customer experience of, we are interested in what you have to say and answering your questions and interacting with you as well. And being able to give an answer when someone is like, where is this? How do I get to here? And having somebody be able to respond very quickly really helps that, and people not being like, well, they don't care where we are. They don't care what we're doing.
And here's an extreme example of the sponsorship that we were talking about earlier, helping to get your advertising dollars, was Pilot Flying J for Battle at Bristol. With their sponsorship dollars that they gave to the event, their hashtag, and they were tagged on every post that Battle at Bristol put out there on every single platform.
And a fun feature on Twitter is you can actually do polls and have them run. You can have them run for an hour. You can have them run for days, weeks at a time. And that can really boost engagement as well, because people want to give their opinion. And especially whenever they can give it in an anonymous way and just be able to press a button and respond to something, you'll get a lot of responses that way. So it's just another way of getting your target audience engaged with your information.
Instagram. Instagram and Facebook have recently become basically one. So Facebook has purchased Instagram, so you'll find a lot of your advertising dollars are split between the two platforms. So when you spend money on Facebook, your ad will also appear on Instagram, whether it's in their timeline or it also appears in their stories now too. So you want to keep that in mind whenever you're spending your dollars through Facebook and Instagram. But again, demographic is key. We kind of hit on this a little bit earlier. It is a younger demographic, similar to Twitter, but maybe a little bit older. And again, content is key. This is a little bit different though.
This really defines your personality as a brand. Because when someone goes to your Instagram page, all they see is your pictures. And they have to actually click on your picture to see the words that you're putting with it. So your imagery is extremely important here because it is showing who you are, what you're doing, and so forth.
So we kind of already talked about advertising, but it is another big pay-to-play field where a lot of times your posts only show up if people are searching for things that you have keywords for or you are paying to have your post at the top. Hashtags are about the same as Twitter. You want to have your unique hashtags, and you also want to have hashtags that are about your event, so you have a broader audience looking at those hashtags. Stories. Who has ever created an Instagram story? Who has an Instagram account? Okay, have you watched any of the stories? So this is kind of becoming more and more popular. It's also available on Facebook now. So creating a story for your brand, there are many different possibilities with these stories. If you are a approved business page, you're allowed to add links so that you can push more of your audience to your website, add traffic, and it's just kind of a fun way to get your brand in front of your audience again. So we're going to show you an example of a story from Bristol Rhythm and Roots that was launched yesterday. Get louder.
Wheel, rock me, mama, any way you feel. Hey, mama, rock me, mama. Well, I heard about the fella you've been dancing with all over the neighborhood.
So I think we kind of have the point here, but we are able to keep the brand of Bristol Rhythm and Roots alive within these stories and kind of highlight some of the major artists that are coming to the festival. And Instagram just recently added this feature where you could add music to your post. So if they were to click the top of that, it would take them to the Marcus King band so that they could learn more about this band if they're really interested in it.
And another great thing with the stories is you don't have to create artwork on your computer and then pull it over. You can actually take pictures at your event or videos of you preparing for your event and different things like that. And on Instagram, you can add hashtags, you can add location, you can add likes.
You can even do the polls and questions there too. You can ask your audience if you have a question you would like some feedback for, or polls as to, hey, what did you like most this weekend, type of thing.
And you can also write on each of these too. It gives you an option to be
Like
able to
this.
doodle on there.
That's fine. Do we need to go back to Instagram?
I don't think so.
Okay. So Snapchat. Snapchat is a very big pay-to-play platform. you can have a Snapchat, you can create stories like you would an Instagram, but you really have to have a strong follower base for that to be any benefit to you at all.
And the audience is extremely young here. And so Eventbrite actually said that it is the third most popular social network at music festivals, but that it is also if you have a following there. So you'd want to get out there. There's each account has a special QR code that people can look up and find and add you, or you can just put out your special handle as well. There are over 200 million active users on Snapchat though. It's a great way to share live experiences virtually, but they are very temporary. They will disappear within a day. So it's a really perfect way to drive a sense of fear of missing out by, if you have a multiple day festival and you're posting at the very first day, you could drive sales for other days of the festival by having that out there and people being like, well, I want to do that. And let's see, geofilters. Geofilters are a lot of fun. People really interact with those, but it can become expensive. Geofilters, you can place a geofence around your event or wherever you are, and you pay per square foot, I believe it is, or per 200,000 square feet. And with that, there's a filter, and you would design that. They have templates online, or they also have where you can create your own. It takes 3 or 4 days to get this approved, though, so you want to start early on that. But that's where you can put things like these that show, you know, a little sense of where they are. Lots of people like to use those. I know when I go to a different city, I like to at least take one picture and find a filter that has where I'm at and post that. It's a fun way to get people engaged, but it can become pricey. And so that's something to keep in mind. And it's not exactly the right answer for everyone, but it could be the right answer for you.
We were actually looking at a filter for Battle at Bristol 2 years ago, and we found that it was going to cost so much, like thousands, maybe $100,000 more to have their logo on their filter. So you also have to consider branding in there. You see this one right here. It doesn't have their logo down here. It does up there, so they might have paid a little bit more money. But if you just created this, which doesn't have your specific brand on it, it'd be a lot cheaper than having your logo right here.
But you could also put above the date, you could have your event spelled out, and that would be tremendously cheaper.
Yes.
And so if you are creating a geofilter, you want to keep those different things in mind, that it could cost different, but you always want to make sure that you have something that supports and sets you apart so people know that it is your festival, your event, or anything.
Unfortunately, this is something we always have to consider when looking at social media for special events. There's always a chance that something bad is going to happen at your event, and you need to have a plan in place to attack this when it happens. A lot of times you have your PR team that has this plan ready for you, but you really need to define who the contact person is whenever this, if something were to happen.
Is it the head of social media? Is it your head of PR? Is it the chairman of the festival? Is it the person running the festival? Different things like that.
And you also want to have a plan for how you are going to respond to people on these social media platforms.
So when are you going to post, and what are your responses going to look like, and how are you going to take control of that conversation?
Yes, you really kind of want to beat them to the punch. You want to get your answer to the, or you want to have your solution out there for your attendees so that they know where the situation is. One example was Blue Plum Festival. A couple years ago, Blue Plum Festival in Johnson City kind of changed how the festival was going to run. It used to be a completely free festival. All attendees could listen to the music, had access to everything that the festival had to offer. 2 years ago, they decided that they were going to split the festival in two and have a paid portion and a free portion. The paid portion was where all the bands were, the beer gardens, and all the things that a lot of people find appealing at the festivals. And so we received a lot of negative feedback on their social media platforms. So we kind of found out that you really need to control that negativity. You need to reply to these people in a private message. So if they have commented on your post on your page, you don't want to delete it. You want to hide these posts. What this will do is it will hide it from viewers. The only people that will be able to see it are their friends. So you want to hide that and take it off of your page, and then you want to respond to them in a personal message so that you take that conversation off of your page and only you and the other person can see these. And that kind of goes, that's the don't run, hide. So hide your posts, don't delete them. And don't run away, don't ignore it. The fact versus myth, we kind of hit on a little bit. You want the truth out there so that people can see and other people aren't going to tell lies about the situation that is happening. Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
This is your chance.
We have, as far as a negative, controlling negativity, it's not a comment, it's on our recommendation. So you can't hide your recommendations.
No.
You cannot hide or delete. The only way you can get a bad recommendation off of your page is if it is derogatory and you report it to Facebook or the social media platform and they see it that way.
But
So
it's
the best
always
thing would be to
important.
reply to
Yeah, the
the
most
Yes.
important thing would be to reply, "Hi, I'd like to speak with you in a private message. We hate that your experience was poor. Let's see how we can make this right."
Give us a call.
Yeah, I started to say, if you reply with an excuse, they'll put your excuse out there.
Exactly.
So
Oh,
you
yeah.
have to be really careful about that, don't you?
Right.
Mhm.
So you want to make sure that you reply and other people see that you have acknowledged the comment and that you are working on it. But you don't have to reply with your answer there. Just say, "We would like to speak with you further and figure out how to make this right."
Now, you said when you can hide, and you said only their friends see it if you hide it?
Right. So all of your attendees that follow your page won't see it, but if they happen to be a friend of this person, they can see that comment. But if you do delete their post, there's a good chance that they are going to come back and just keep doing it over and over.
Right. They would notice that you did that and get angry.
Obviously, if it has derogatory terms or something like that, you want to delete it. But if it's nothing that derogatory, we found that it's best to just hide it.
Is there any formula? I'm thinking of an event that we had in Folsom Habitat. It was a women build event, and so we got lots of traction shared throughout lots of different groups, like some of the Women Matter groups, some of the women-centered groups shared it. It was, we thought it was getting great traction, and then we had very poor attendance. So is there a percentage that, if you have all these people who say they're interested, likely only this percent will actually show up? I mean, is there any kind of rule for that? Because we were expecting, again, much larger based on what we were seeing and, conversations and sharing and all of that. And even the people who clicked that they were coming,
Right.
again, only a small.
I don't know that
actually
there is
showed
a
up.
direct formula to be able to know exactly what percent actually shows up. I would say just like when you think about planning for a wedding or something like that, or any kind of party, to maybe expect half of the people that reply.
Right.
That's the way I really look at it. I don't know that that's necessarily the answer, but I kind of think of it that way of, you know, people are going to say they're going to come, and then what's going to come up that day. So those kind of things.
And then, I guess the second part of the question, is there a general rule about how early you roll out an event? Because I know a lot of people kind of fly by the seat of their pants with what they're going to do each day.
Right.
I mean, it's, I think, a generational thing. Which I'm in that generation, so, but, you know, is it smart to roll an event out? I mean, obviously, we're not doing something as big as Rhythm and Roots, but do we roll it out a month in advance, 2 months in advance?
I would
2 weeks in
say
advance? 'Cause
a
you
month
know,
at
if you're-
least
if you
would
get too
be-
far out, you might forget.
Right. I would say that a month at least would be good. A real nice way, if you have multiple events within your event, is to roll out the big event and then put the smaller events that fall within it within the weeks coming. And so then it still shows up in people's news feed. It's still something new, but it's still the same information that you kind of gave out at the very beginning.
And something else you can consider is setting that event page up early so that people know, that people that are used to that event happening every year can put it on their calendar. But then as the event gets closer and closer, start posting content to that event page and sharing that event.
And doing it more frequently. When you do it ahead of time, you know, you'll do it like once or twice a week, maybe once a week kind of thing. And then closer you get to your event, you'll make your posts closer together. So like this week with Bristol Rhythm and Roots, we're having something come out every day.
It's
So-
not every hour.
Right. And so it's, the closer you get to it, the more you want to push. But I would say definitely getting it out there at least a month in advance is nice, lets people kind of start planning around it, get interested in it, and then continue pushing more things. And lots of times whenever people have showed interest in your event, you can invite them to like your page. So if you've created just an event page for that thing, if they've responded to it in some way, you can invite them to like your main page, so then they could potentially be getting more information. And if you post to your event page in the discussion, after it's already been out there and people have said whether they're going, interested, not going, they'll get alerts unless they turn it off that you have posted within that event.
So you're talking about Facebook right now, right?
Right.
Okay. So what if you just have somebody whose mission is to harass you on your own page? There is a way to ban them from your page, right?
Yes.
And, I mean, and even though they probably will go on their own page and be ugly, generally if somebody's ugly, other people see that, but you don't want to always just let somebody control
Right.
your page.
You want to
can
control
ban
your
it.
conversation. And so if there is something that comes up and they're continually being derogatory and being negative on your account, you can ban them. If it's every now and then, you kind of hide it, overlook it. But if it becomes a very persistent thing, you can ban them from your page. Just because, just like you wouldn't want someone coming into your place of business that is only trying to cause a fight.
Question about boosted posts. We had, I worked at the community college, and we had the Richard Lee Music Songwriters Festival in May. So we did a post on Facebook and Instagram for the songwriters contest piece that we had. So we had, on Facebook we had like 76 likes. On Instagram we had over 1,000, which really shocked us.
That's
We thought it
awesome.
might be bigger, but we weren't expecting over 1,000. But a lot of the people that were liking were commenting, you know, I'm a songwriter, but I do hip hop, and so I'm guessing we got that from hashtagging songwriters and stuff like that. But how does, we just had one budget to split between the two because they're shared now. How does it split it between, because our budget looked like it mostly went to Instagram because we have more likes on that, but
Well,
is there
I
any
think that
rhyme or reason to that?
it will gauge where the more interest is going, and it'll put your dollars in that pool.
Okay.
So if it sees that you're getting more engagement on Instagram, it will spend more money there than it will on Facebook. And you can also have multiple ads within your ad set, and sometimes those ads pick up more engagement, and so Facebook will spend more money on that specific ad than the other two.
But what you post on Facebook doesn't automatically go to Instagram, right? You
Right.
have to post on both social media, but
Yes.
then when you pay to boost, you're saying that if you pay Facebook, it'll put it on Instagram.
Correct.
Right.
You have posted it,
Correct.
if that's the one that has the most activity.
Mm-hmm.
I see. Looks like we have some more work to do.
Anybody else?
Well, thank you so much for coming up from Johnson City to help us out today. You have been very informative, and we have enjoyed this. And we always appreciate getting more information and working with High Road Agency, so thank you very much.
Thank you, we're happy to be here.
On October the 3rd, Delegate Will Moorfield will be here to speak about a law that was passed in the General Assembly this past legislative session, that is tax exemptions, I guess you would say, for small business, for new small business. So he will be talking about his bill, and be sure and come and ask questions, because he probably knows it better than anybody. Thank you.